Broke the man, snitch, racist, aging narcissist, doxer and transphobe, parasite, Dean TV, struck evil's channel. Good evening on a rainy evening. I'm just reporting in to answer Slotham's point, and I've got a couple of other points, small ones that I was thinking about. Well, actually one point and just one comment. So I'll start with the comment, I suppose, because it's only little, and it refers back to the last video where I left it, where I said, where's Dean going to go from here? And whether it was Dean or Lewis or a mix of the two or whatever's been going on at Ricardo's, we've moved on to death threats now. So it's full-on death threats, sitting and slitting people's throats. That's where we've got to, and do you know, it broke my heart as a mother, I'll tell you, because that photo, and I need to find what video that was from. If someone could let me know where that was from, I'd like to get a copy of that video. But the one where Lewis is sat on the corner of the sofa in the dark, hunched over his phone with his slippers on, and you could just see him, like, maybe everything else is going off normal in the house, everyone's like probably having a chat, normal family life, and then there's just this like crunched up old person in the corner who's like acting like a teenager. And now we know that what he's typing on that phone when he's in that position is, I'm gonna slit your throat, to random people on the internet. So that was quite hilarious to me, to put those two together. The point that Slotham brought up was about Albert and the originator, the person who's to blame for all this. And I think that when it comes down to it, it's personal preference and personal focus and who you've got your vendetta against, I think, is what it actually comes down to. Because I was thinking about it and I was like, well, to me, it has always, it's really difficult. And that's what made me realise it was hard for me to let go of my originator, who I think it is, which is Dean. And that is what made me think it was all about what your personal vendetta is with, who pissed you off. Do you know what I mean? Who pissed you off first? And I think there's not that much in it, and that's what this is showing. But I will point out some of like your points and where I agree and where I think there's a difference. So I totally agree with like pretty much everything that you said about it was DT had plenty of chances. That it was definitely, regarding James, it's the obvious choice for him to go for Albert. That's a given. That's how these people work. It's all political, and there is no way that James would ever go against Darius. I mean, that's just a given. So that is true. Like, that is the easy option. So that's part of the reason why he's gone for it. But that's not obviously the point that we're discussing at the moment, really. It's about like who started it, I suppose. And what I would say about this is, I'd say you're correct in the sense that without Darius and the way he was, it couldn't have happened. That's what I mean about it being the AIDS. But I don't think it was a certain action of Darius's. I don't think he helped himself, but I don't think there was a certain action of his which instigated the entire dismantling of it. It definitely did regarding personally with Slotham, with you, yes. That instigated it, and the chances of him to be able to, you know, undo that or rectify it in some way or address it or just like acknowledge it would have been something. But again, we've seen that time and time again with things that he could have done that he didn't, and he had every opportunity. So obviously I totally agree with that as well, but it doesn't change where I'm at with it, because what it did is there was like a unique environment, which is what I used to say, it was a unique environment. What I've learned now through Slotham, what happened with Slotham, as well as a lot of other things, is that, well, I think the pressure from what happened with Slotham made Darius show himself. So I lost my train of thought, but luckily I could listen back to the recording and pick it up again, so that was pretty good. But yeah, I do agree actually, because if it wasn't for Darius being the way he is and how he's shown himself to be now, so at the beginning of this I thought it was a unique environment and it was just the way it was a collection of people that had just happened to come together, and the way Darius was kind of made that work, which is true. But what I didn't take into account is that this was all for Darius's convenience, and it just happened to come like this as a result of it. And the second that wasn't going to be Darius's convenience anymore, it was all going to go to shit. So yeah, in that sense, in the sense that he's got no character, and everyone kind of built a network around this person who has absolutely was just made a flim-flam completely, then in that sense, yes. But for me, the thing that undid everything was that because of the weakness of Darius's community and how he'd made it, in the sense that this stuff to do with the snakes and stuff, I mean, that is way before, do you know what I mean? Obviously snakes versus rats and stuff, yes, that came in later, but like, that wasn't in the rats, wasn't the comment section, do you know what I mean? The rats was the people who just came against everybody in the community for no reason, and that was instigated, in my opinion, by Dean. He came in with an aggressive move, knowing that Darius was a weak person, because Dean is a vulture. And so that's the point I'm making, is that I suppose not, like, without those guys, something else probably would have happened further down the line regarding Darius. But then also, on that sense, without Darius, they would have found, or Dean may have found someone else, but it probably wouldn't have gone down in quite the same way without Darius doing that groundwork. Because what he did is he collected people like Albert, who were unique in themselves and really easy to manipulate if you understand what that person's drives are. They're very simple, and obviously he's a firecracker and can get wound up at the slightest thing, and he'd shown how much of a follower he was, and he'd shown how to be operated. A lot of these people had shown how they are operated by Darius to anyone who could watch for a few months, and that's the way I see it. And Dean just moved in, used the footholds that Darius left, the holes, by being just selfish, and us being just kind of just hanging around, not really thinking anything of it, and it being quite an open place as a result, which was amazing. But in nature, these things are always on some sort of knife edge, and that's where it was, and that's what it was. And obviously Slothan was the conduit which came and undid it all, and I'm not going to disagree with that. The pressure was put on by Slothan, and without that support regarding the rats, things would have been very different as well. For us, I think you've always said you weren't fighting other people's battles. It's not that, but with other people aligning and us aligning with other people, just because of having the similar arguments and discovering similar things, like obviously through what Slothan and his community were doing, it opened my eyes, because if that space hadn't been there for me to go and see people and go and like ask questions of and be asked questions by, then there would have just been nowhere for that to go, and Darius would have just got away with it. With just like, and it's not even good for him. He's not even getting anywhere. He's just being shit. He's just generally shit. That's all it is, really. Just another shit person who people thought was a bit less shit than he was. My conclusion is that, well, like I say, Darius made the footholds, but those guys came in. Dean came in with his plans. Albert was utilised because he was already a tool. The rest of them followed suit, and this is where we're at. That's my opinion. My third point is that I was thinking about turncoatism, and I can't remember what it was that got me thinking about it, but so Albert's big thing is being loyal, and his whole thing was a Truxton army and all that stuff for so long. And obviously we know that was all lip service, because he's turned on his heel after controlling so many people so many times, because he's just a weak man that's just desperate for some validation from anybody, as he's doing his death rattle, basically walking round and round that little bit like a stray dog. But if you look at their little crew now, who's there from the olden days? There's no one there. There's no old crew there. There's like a few hangers-on that are around. I suppose you could, like Volt, but he's a bit of an independent. So you've got Volt. Who else have you got there who's like old crew? Like, yes, obviously you've got your cheap depots and all that stuff, but I don't even know where he's placed and that. But it's all like, you know, Dean's quite a late comer. You've got Rabbit Dude he wasn't there from the Rick times at all. He came like some point in Amico times. Who else have we got? All right, obviously Cheetah Man's old crew. But then you've got Carl, do you know what I mean? And they're like your two main people. You've got two people who came in late to the community. All of us lot are over here being called the Snakes by these lot. Just because Albert has decided to side up with them because he's spoiling for a rumble or something, or he's painted himself into a corner. He was just easily manipulated by Dean's velveteen voice. So, yeah, it's just something to think about, isn't it?